and Veronica VaRoom. I've got one question. Are you getting back in that ring?
Yo, Sibley, I'm gonna set it straight. I ain't getting back in the ring yet because I got something even better. Yo, get over here.
Oh.
I got a secret weapon, baby. This
Hello.
right here is Brooklyn Love. She's got the hottest serve in the country. And we about to tear it up. Yeah, she's named after the second best borough, but it's all right, because she is number one. And together, full throttle, brah, we about to take it over, baby.
Game, set, match.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. Can you tell which thing is not like the other before I finish my song?
You know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
The World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
One of these things indeed. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is your host, Mr. Green. How are you out there? And good old podcast land, or wherever you are, happen to be in the world. Well, the bulk of everything at the job has been done, but however, there has been a couple of little bumps that delay reviews of episodes, but here we are again on this particular episode. We're going to bypass all the other things that I like to do. If something comes up in my mind, I'll of course bring it up as I carry on through, but in this abbreviated version, we get to talk about the episode that featured the main event, the Classmaster versus Santana Garrett. Yes. You know, once upon a time, when they would sell the main events, they would say, that's the main event anywhere in the world. Not quite sure about this one, though. We'll see. Anyhow, moving into the actual episode itself, because it wasn't just the feature of the main event. No, we had a return. That's usually pretty good, right? We had an angle get forwarded a little bit more. That's usually pretty good. Yes. And we got a debut. In-ring debut. So, I mean, you got all this good stuff going on, but how did it come together in the episode? Well, let's take a look, or let's review that, shall we? This episode, Slate, is episode 429, season 4, episode 29, title Enlightened, Intentions. The air date, April the 25th. The chronological number, 185. And the show began with a recap of the match and the finish and the drama that was leading into the match of Ashley Blaze and Tara Strike taking on Miami Sweet Heat for, of course, the Wild Tag Team Championships. This includes all little, I guess, the extension stories that lead into Best for Business coming into existence, including also a brief but unseen clip from Lana Starr basically going, how they think that we did that. And, you know, it kind of got cut off from there. And what they're talking about, that being destroy their room. And I use destroy very, very, very lightly. So this is, I guess, to catch up to speed, let you know what's going on in this particular storyline. And introduce you to the birth of the controversial tag team. I shouldn't label it with that, but the only reason I even say it is because they came out with those T-shirts that they blurred, that it probably meant nothing and never going to be mentioned again. But it shows the birth of them. Best for business. And it transitions after, I guess, the recap of what we got in the match and how they came to be, et cetera, to the fire. Put quotation marks around the word fire because we didn't see any fires, and all we saw was the disembodied hand putting, spraying something into a bucket. But this is fire to Best for Business old outfits. I guess that's as good a reason as any for them to use something else, but I would have figured they would have had to done it anyway. So again, like, what did we lose here, guys? I mean, seriously. For two people who just came out, and I know this is before the actual reviews are, but for two people that came out under the impression to the world that we don't like our old partners, we don't want anything to do with our old partners, and we're trying to break away from our old partners, what would burning their old outfits really mean? I mean, just a thought. If I'm trying to hurt somebody by destroying their stuff, I want to destroy something that I know that they care about, not an outfit that they pretty much, attaches them to two people they don't like anymore. But, these vandalism bits that they do are so lame. God, I can't even say it another way. The vandalism that they do is so lame. You can't even pretend to wreck a dressing room. You can't pretend to do something that would have meant, somebody would be legitimately mad and everybody would understand it. Can't just go out to a Walmart and buy a duffel bag and throw some shirts into it and then dump a Coke in it or something. You can't go to a pawn shop or something and buy some phones and just step on them a couple of times, or a tablet, so they could claim it was theirs and just broke. Anything. This is sad. This is so sad. All those things I just came up with right now on the spot. Their vandalism of the attempt of making a mess on this show at any given point is like the most untalented group of people that's trying to set a scene that I've ever witnessed. And I shouldn't even be getting upset about it now. I hadn't even gotten into the review anyhow, so let's move on. So they recap, sure, talking about the, no more dead weight nonsense, which, again, outside of WoW, and I got to be clear to say this, outside of WoW, she's perfectly fine. But the character of Sandy Shore, up until this point, at the very least, she was dead weight. Who is she to talk about anybody? All right, moving on. So the first segment, I shouldn't say the first segment. After we get out of the recap, we go into the second segment, which is Best for Business entering ringside. They demand the mics, proceed to talk about the situation. They talk about, the fire in the back, explaining the destruction of their gear, which again, not only, they pretty much just brushed that off. Well, we didn't like it anyway. Well, I would figure that. Like, what fool would not see that? Why would burning this be an issue? So they move on. And, I felt like it was them trying to explain away, like they really needed a reason to explain away the outfit change. Like, this was more or less pointless. We've already discovered that they have gone heel. That's not a shock. Them coming out and talking about, well, they ruined our outfits. Okay, so what? And then somebody vandalized our room. I know who did it. Now we got these two going to play idiots also. To the same prank or joke or setup, whatever you want to call it, that happened to the other team. So we get that. It feels like Best for Business is as close to WoW trying to be controversial or cutting edge as they can. You know, saying stuff like, you know, Ashley Blaze and Tara Striker are a commercial break, which, you know, goddamn well that is nothing that Dave McClain would want anybody to think about anybody on that show. Yeah, I mean, it would be nice if they were able to cut loose on that, but there's just not enough material there to cut into. All of the stuff that they're saying as insults is basically pretty generic. Dead weight, we're better without. I mean, it's normal heel stuff. There's nothing that would line as a personal reason for any of this. It's generic. It's across the board. Anybody, you can slot almost any other pair of people into this, and the promo would work the same. Find another tag team and stick them into that situation. Or another 4 people that were tag teams. And stick them in that situation. What here it would be personal enough to make that special and stick onto an island unto itself. There's nothing. That's one of the biggest complaints I have with WoW. Like, there is a lot of just generic promo time. You got a few that have promos that their promo is their promo. You got a couple of them that fit that bill. But the overwhelming majority of them is just like, it's like I said with some of the baby faces. What are they likely to say when they get a microphone in their hand? They're going to say something about the cheating of the bad guys, and, you know, we're going to fight back, which they never do because they just repeat the same thing over and over and over again. And in this case, they're maybe the one heel group that hasn't really anything to lean into, at least yet. The rest of them, most heels there, do get a chance to do good promos, but the babyfaces generally suck. Here is just, it's like trying to force it to be personal. Sandy Shore has nothing to do with this scenario. But she's pushed into, well, they held us down, and we, you know, like, she wasn't part of it. There's only one team that split here, and it's the Dojo Defenders. Sandy Shore has absolutely zero to do with that. And if you took away the fact that she was the coffee buddy that she was out when she missed her tag team title shot, again, let's repeat that, she missed her tag team title shot for lingering around with her. Inexplicably, didn't come back and explain what they were doing. Maybe that would have filled in some blanks, but they never did that. So as far as this is concerned, like, what does Sandy Shore have to do with this? If anything, her friends abandoned her already. They're not there. Just, I mean, it's not like she gets to go and like, and I dropped them like a bad. Like, they didn't come back. So her purpose here is merely as the hanger-on to Karakai. In much the same way, honestly speaking, as Ashley Blaze is Tara Strike, she didn't have anything to do with it until she just bogarted her way into the situation. Hey, yo, what are y'all doing? You know, just walking in while they're in the middle of a conversation playing Peacemaker for nobody asked her to. So, I mean, look, and I get that she's the babyface in that scenario, but it did happen like one time too many. This whole angle is just a mess. It's a mess. I'm sure there'll be somebody in the wild that will try to defend it. But my goodness, would this be the hill that you want to die on as far as it being a good story? That somebody for these alleged prestigious tag team championships thought so little of them that walking around Vegas with a cup of coffee was more important? with somebody who had a tremendous loss record, and that's the person that I want to go pal around with. Again, them flipping over to being best of business is probably best business for them, absolutely. Because it can't be no worse. There cannot be no worse than where Sandy Shore is already at. So, anyhow, that rant just made me lose my place entirely where I was with that. Where was I? So, yeah, they best of business out in the ring. They're doing their promo. They're cutting the dead weight, et cetera, et cetera. You get the baby faces now. They come out. And the funny thing there, at least for me, is you get Ashley Blaze of the mind say, hey, why don't you say that again? Say that to our face. Sandy Shore proceeds to say that, and then she's told immediately to shut up. I was like, you asked her to explain it. Shut your mouth, Sandy. What? She was answering the question. Anyhow. So the Blaze's strike come out claiming innocent, redoing the same thing in reverse. And then McLean is forced to fix this. And he wants to incite an investigation. He gets up from the commentating table with his microphone and hold on. We're not having this tonight. And it's amazing how he can stop stuff from happening when he wants to stop stuff from happening. And those four were so hot and bothered with each other that they wanted to fight so bad that one guy with a microphone was able to stop them from doing it. It's funny how all that works. Anyhow, so he gets up and like, hey, he makes his Ocean's 11's reference. I guess he was waiting to uncork that one somewhere. It's like George Clooney said in that movie with Julia Roberts, it's Vegas, and cameras are everywhere. All right. And the first thought that I had then was, okay, so if a camera is going to be used to solve this problem, why didn't you do that like 2 or 3 weeks ago? When the last time it was so obvious that it was Miami Sweet Heat. Where were the cameras then? Where was that when he was on the commentary like, oh, well, it was obvious. They had to have done this. There was no thought about cameras at that point. But now, oh, it's Vegas. There's cameras everywhere. Never mind the fact that it's WOW and it's a wrestling promotion that in their universe is cameras everywhere anyway. So what? Why would you need security cameras for this? That camera was sitting there in the same spot it always is. I'm pretty sure they didn't move it. I know. It's asking too much. I know it. It's asking too much. So he, with his authority, is able to hold both teams back in place. And he says that he will essentially get to the bottom of this. And once he do, give him give us a match with them. Best for business. That's what paraphrasing Blaze at this point. So we got that. We know that this match is around the corner, and I guess that'll be the debut of the new gear that they just had made. Rush order. Yes, you know what I mean? Because if it happens, theoretically within a week, well, they had to rush order it unless they just pre-planned this and they was waiting on it. And that's probably the more likely scenario. That they pre-planned it and waited on it, and we're going to be a team anyway, regardless of what they do. All right. The real question leaving out of that was this really necessary? I mean, honestly. I don't know how much it forwarded. They were already at a point that the babyfaces would have needed and or wanted revenge anyway. So I'm not saying it to be, like they did a bad job. I don't think anybody did a bad job at all. What I do think is that there is just nothing to talk about. They have no substance to this. Like I said, the only two people there that have any sort of valid reasons to be mad at each other, aside from, again, Ashley stuck her nose in, so she got caught the crossfire, but is the Dojo Defenders, Strike and Kai. And Kai shouldn't be in the position that she's in. She just completely victim blamed. How could you have a match without me? Remember that scene? That's why it has no meat on the bones, man. It doesn't. It does not. This is weak. This is very weak. Moving on. Next segment, Sibley Scoles interviews Veronica VaRoom. And she gives a promo on Brooklyn Love. And she's good at this. She's good at this. She comes off just a natural talker. This is her strong suit. This is why I said, before there was another Gambino that they tossed it to the mix, I wish it was Veronica VaRoom. Just let her wear some normal clothes. She doesn't need to be a manager in tights. And she should have been running the alliance. All due respect to Gambino. I'm just saying that VaRoom she's good on the mic. At least she comes off that way. She's got a very good aura about her when she's on the mic. Had a great line in there. She's from the second best borough, but like just little things like that. And I don't think that's something that you can sit down and teach. However, as stated earlier, one of these things is not like the other. At least the names, if nothing else, and somewhat of the look between VaRoom and Speed are on parallel. They don't match, but they're not, clashing with each other necessarily. Different color scheme, but essentially the same kind of look, right? And then you introduce that to this taller young lady in a tennis outfit. Speed, VaRoom, and Love. Now that's not necessarily bad, but like I said, one of those names just isn't like the others. Not bad. Different. And this segment would have been perfectly fine if it didn't end with game, set, match. It took something that was moderately serious and then it, cartooned it up. But Brooklyn Love doesn't fit into the team of Full Throttle. Like, of all the times to bring that name up, because I don't believe that they had talked about it before now, this just did not seem the point to be like, hey, our name is Full Throttle. Scoles was fine here. She asked a reporter question. Are you getting back in the ring? So she played the role fine. Works for me. And it was the right question for this scenario. And the dominoes fell. No, I'm not getting back right just yet, but I got something even better. Put her new client over. Talked her up. And not just talked her up over herself in that scenario. The only thing that she didn't give over top was, I'm assuming that she's from a different borough because of what she said. But other than that, and then ended it with, she's the second best borough, but she's number one. She put her over. The only thing that I really wish that they would do with her is the same rule that I would have had with her if she was with the Alliance. She does not need to be the manager in tights. It's gaudy looking. You know, if she's not part of the match. She could be taken seriously as a manager if she was out of the roller derby wrestling outfit and just had regular manager stuff on. She could be colorful in that, but she didn't need to be the manager in tights if she's going to be the manager. And then that leads over to the next thing. Now, if you were just visually speaking, forget the team. If you were just looking at this team without any explanation whatsoever, I promise you probably would say Brooklyn Love is the manager here. When I say that there are times that you should alter the entrance because something dictates that needs to happen, this is one of those times. I know I said it when we was talking about the 10-woman elimination. Like, that's supposed to be a serious situation. Come on, you can be a little bit more stern coming out here, like y'all ready for war instead of coming out like you normally do any other day of the week. This is a different reason, but it's still different. Chase. Sorry. Speed and VaRoom. I don't know where the hell I got Chase from. Speed and VaRoom. They had their entrance, I guess, essentially down. And now they've introduced Love, which, was like, where do I fit in here? And they came out like a tag team, which they aren't. That's why I mean, if you were just looking at this without any knowledge of the, like the promo ahead of this didn't exist, you probably would have thought this was the other way around. The young lady in the tennis outfit and the racket is the manager. Here's her tag team. So at the very least, I mean, you could change that. I know that it was supposed to be VaRoom and Speed, but come on, there's a third person there now. They should have done it. But there's those moments. It's like once we've written this, you cannot alter it. It's got to be this way. No matter if I'm mad, sad, got a new partner, this, that, or the other thing, the way that we come out is the way that we come out. A few of them do something different because they know better. Like, I'm not going to walk over here towards this group that's, standing around that already don't like me like I have no fear, no worries in the world. Some people adjust, but not enough on Wild Do. So, anyhow, that's just them. And I'll just go ahead and say, in the team called Full Throttle, Love looks miscast. Their opponents, of course, Animal Instinct. Same thing that I said about them applies now, and that I like that they are less played into the dog and cat thing. Now, of course, the commentators still kind of beat around that. But if you took that element away from them, as I've said before, they just come off like two eccentric weirdos. And I mean that in the best way possible. Like explained it before. I was like, I could just imagine that you got these two young ladies that are, just athletic and had too much free time in their hands. Let's be wrestlers. Okay. I mean, it's not any more different than a dog trainer wanting to do it or a woman that believes she's a cat. So, yeah, the less they play that up with the scratching posts and the puns when they talk and crawling around and, things like that, the less that's played up, the more I like them. The more they come off like just a genuine team. Polar opposite of each other, but fit together very well. You know what I mean? Like yin and yang. And I say go with that. What do they need to be addressed by their gimmick character? What good has her being a dog trainer done for anything? I'm not even sure if it provided any sort of real narrative for him, except that one time that some flimsy story had to start because the babyface champions, again, devalued the championships. The babyface champions had a less luxurious dressing room than the dog. That might have been the only time I can remember them having anything to do with some characteristic of their name. Okay, so this is Brooklyn's debut, and I wrote down I'm almost certain that she's going to either lose or be on the losing team. It's a weird narrative for this particular persona / character. Like, how many more times are we going to get I'm so good at this particular thing that I decide to quit and join WoW? I mean, what kind of sense does that make? Like, I was in tennis. I was the best in the world at it. So I just said, screw it. Let me start this. Well, I know that there's money in tennis and I have this uncertainty in this other business. That makes absolute perfect sense. Yeah. Man, it's not even a sport that connects. I could certainly understand if they were trying to play it up as, she was in some other combat sport. And by the way, I'm not saying just because you play tennis or you were in basketball or volleyball, this, that, and the other, that they can't participate in wrestling. All right? But the way that they just brought it up is like, this is so great, so I just ditched it. And here I am. That part is what is ridiculous to me. That I was so good at tennis, I decided to wrestle. I'm like, I don't see the connective tissue here. Anyway, moving on. Zayn, at some point within this match, refers to Catalina Jinx as a submission specialist. I don't know how. Like, where I don't know. I'm not sure if we've seen her tap anybody out. Maybe once. I don't know. Specialist is where I would go. Anyhow, Veronica was all over this. She, again, cannot get on her as a manager, man. If the wrestling thing don't work out, that the manager might be what she needs to do. I just really wish that she would not be that manager, like I said, the manager in tights. If she just had a different outfit to run around there in, the one that takes less emphasis off of her, but still, provides her own personality, then yeah, I'll be all for it. Now, if she's not going to get back in the ring anytime soon, Brooklyn Love and Speed is just an odd-looking team. But not that I'm against the odd. I'm just saying, visually, it just keeps coming off like VaRoom and Speed should be there together. And Love should be on the floor managing them. I'm sure that's not going to happen. Just seems like that's what it should be. This was fine up until a point. Animal Instinct here was defaulted into the babyface role, but why? I don't know. I asked about it when I was looking at the press release for this episode. I have no idea. It's like, are they going babyface? Was this just a one-time shot of heel versus heel? All it made me think is that they just have a lack of baby faces. If they had to throw Animal Instinct in this, and they shouldn't have had to do that. If they had been long established as this heel team. I mean, that was the entire run that they had when it was in for these Vegas episodes. The old cheating by putting her foot on Catalina and giving her leverage. And now, just, all of a sudden, maybe they're not that. I don't know if I even would want to see them as baby faces yet. I don't know if they've had the best of themselves as heels. So the positioning of them in this match, although not terrible, it did leave me like, why is this happening? So again, it was fine up until a point, and I think I'm safe in saying this. When you have David McLean on commentary saying that it's getting a little sloppy, I think I feel comfortable in saying that, yeah, it got a little sloppy there. Now, that might have been the third or fourth match of the night. I don't know. I have heard that complaint, like, hey, we got to wrestle multiple times a night. So I don't want to just put it off on that. Maybe somebody just lost the pacing or wherever it was. Like, I'm sure it happens, but it's also taped television. So if they didn't want it there that way, it wouldn't have. So we do get that. It's still watchable, but there's some, pretty obvious little spots where things got a little botched up. I guess the most notable being Jinx coming off of the top rope, the attempt to hit Love with a clothesline. But the thing that I will say for Jinx here, in the entirety of this match, I don't know whether it was her working, and I don't know whether it was legitimate. But she had the sale of the leg throughout and after, which would lead me to believe that it would be more legitimate. But I don't know that. She might have been just committed to the angle, the injury. And with that's why I'm like, okay, look, it might have been a little sloppy, but I'm willing to give it, this caused that, or this contributed to it. And that's going to happen. So I was like, all right, yeah, okay, a little sloppy, sure, but I was fine. Still watchable. All things considered. I mean, it ain't like it's pay-per-view. You know what I mean? It's not like you're in an arena and you paid, your $100 or whatever it is to sit down and watch it. They provided you the show, and they did fine. We've seen better out of Animal Instinct. I'm sure that they felt that way too. But anyhow, Animal Instinct pinned Speed with the pause for effect combo. That does concern me sometimes, just the way that move is set up. But, it always makes me feel like they're going to drop the other person on Collins' ankle. I was like, no. Ugh. I don't know why that, when I see it, that's what I see, but it just kind of bothers me. So, yeah, it was fine for what it was. There's no surprise that Love was on the losing team. She did not lose. Now, that's the other thing that you could, I guess, work that into her, but she didn't get pinned. She was not the one that ate the pinfall. So there's that. But I will repeat, at this point, it's just odd that they brought up Full Throttle as the team name now once they have a tennis player applied to it. Somebody who does not have a speed reference in their name. So we move on. Next segment is promo by Drucilla Blade, and she talks some big talk. She's another young lady that could talk very well on the microphone or in front of a camera. That part she's got. It's a great promo. Although I felt like she should probably do less of these special, and I only call it special because whatever reason she gets to shoot it at her front gate, or I don't know. It would, if she gave this same promo backstage in front of, maybe Sibley, she just got the mic and she cuts this promo. And then you get Xena Phoenix saying whatever it is that she can say. You're still kind of on even ground there, right? I don't know if I would keep giving her these standalone, off-site promos to lead into a loss. And it doesn't feel like it's helping the special, if she ever had it. Oftentimes, I'm like, I don't know if WoW wants anybody to be special because of things like this. Like that promo comes from somebody who I would imagine is an in-ring killer. Quite possibly on a real streak. And just calling out the next person that they're going to victimize. It comes off that way, but that's not what happens. So, it's their particular choice. This is just my suggestion, but I wouldn't keep doing it. Save the special promos for the special people. Or the ones you want to be special. So they stand out. You toss these things out to people who are on losing streaks. The special of the promo and its environment and it being different loses it just a little bit more. Next segment. Drucilla Blade with Genesis taking on Xena Phoenix. I still kind of think, I was like, I don't know if Drucilla Blade even stayed in the manager / help role long enough to really gotten the point across of her being there. The whole premise was supposed to be Genesis needed somebody to watch her back. Now it's turned into, they're only one match away from being a tag team. I know they keep like, oh, they're not a tag team now. This is different. Genesis doesn't want any friends. She wants to do this on her own, but we just needed her so she can watch her back. I guess that eventually it will happen. If one or the other is in that company long enough, eventually it will happen. So just the concept of their union, their partnership is another one of those things. Like, all right, it was the way they presented it for like a week or two, and then it just, all right, now I'm wrestling. All right. So anyhow, back to the match. We start off with McLean claiming that Xena Phoenix had been brought into a news station in Albania by a news group and I guess was featured there. Now, I am not claiming that it didn't happen. Okay? But this is the second time following Top Tier at that alleged hockey game. It's like if these things are taking place outside of WoW and places that will give them additional credibility, why are the cameras not there? Somebody Even if you're doing it with your phone and you have them along with, somebody should be shooting these things. If it actually exists. Again, not saying that it didn't, but if it actually exists, why not show the footage? There's no real reason that, all right, just take my word for it, fans. They did this. There's no real reason for you not to show it. Especially when you want your wrestlers to come off as special, as stars, as, hey, look at them at this meeting, all of that stuff. Especially if they were called out by name to do it. Now, I don't know if they did that, but assuming that what he said in his statement is true, I would imagine they would have had to. You're a wrestler and you're Albanian. We want to talk to you. Please, we'll fly you down. Like, that's how it came across to me. And if that were the case, why wouldn't you have that thing recorded? Even if I had to say, look, Mom, if you're going down there with your daughter, I will pay you to take your phone and record some of this stuff from backstage, just anything. Okay? I'll get you a tripod, something. But that stuff, it just being talked about is a waste. It would mean so much more and have so much heavy impact if we could see it too. The match itself, Genesis also does well as a manager for the physicality of it. She might not be the best mouthpiece for somebody, but the running around the ring, the interfering, all that stuff, she's pretty good at. I mean, probably a little better than some of the ones that are, quote managers there. The match showcased Phoenix. If you can't say anything else about her in the ring, she executes her moves very sharply, very well. And I am going to say this about Xena Phoenix, and this is not because I know there's some there that are protective of WoW, but this is not a shot at WoW. I mean this in all sincerity, absolute sincerity. Xena Phoenix, for her particular wrestling style, I know she's not going to do this. At least I don't expect her to, but she needs to be in a location that is similar to what Ring of Honor was. And that's the most sincere thing I can say about her, is because her work is what is going to carry her over. She might not be able to call a match in ring. I don't know. She would impress people with how the snap and the execution, though. And she's probably, as far as we've seen, she's not the most engaging promo. Nothing against her, but she hasn't shown that yet. But if she was in an environment where the wrestling is what matters to that fan base, in much the same way that Ring of Honor was, they educated their audience that what goes on bell to bell is what the most important thing. Yeah, they had, segments and whatnot backstage and this, that, and the other, but they made sure those fans understood their hierarchy. The hierarchy here is that we have the best wrestlers. No one in the world can outperform our guys. And they're going to show you once the bell ring that they're, all this other play, they can't touch them. I mean, it's so much to the point they had an entire they reactivated it now. The entire championship built on the premise of being the best wrestler, the ROH Pure Championship. That's an environment that she would probably do far better in. If for no other reason than learning more. because it would probably force her to be in there with somebody that's got a ridiculous amount of experience over her. And they would have a, you're going to have to work this match the way I'm working it. She'd have to be there for them calling, when they call that match. But again, for her style, the way that she's presented herself so far as a grappler, that's where I think that she would be best utilized. Now, maybe I'll turn around and they'll start, putting stronger emphasis on the matches. That's possible. I'm not going to say that it's not. I don't think it's gonna. I think WoW is going to stick to what WoW has always been. This is, their primary focus has always seemed to be writing for television rather than the match. The match is just like a means to an end. That's how it comes off in a lot of cases. But for her, how she works, and has nothing towards, WoW, she probably would do better in an environment like that. I know Ring of Honor doesn't exist in that way anymore. But one of those wrestling promotions where their strong suit is making those fans believe in the match. Anyhow, that was just a little side note. But it's a fine match. It's a fun match. I obviously was, more taken with Phoenix in this particular instance, although there are some times where she sells very little. There's a point in the match where Genesis gets up and chokes her out with the nunchucks in the corner. And seconds later, she was, fine. And there was almost zero purpose in what Genesis did. She just kind of shrugged it off. And then, Blade cut her off after that. But if you remove that spot, I was like, well, Blade would have done it anyway. There was also the portion where she's draped over the second rope. She blocks Genesis from choking her out again, which I thought that was a nice touch. And I also thought it was a nice touch that Genesis just adjusted. Popped her in the stomach with the nunchucks instead. Can't choke you? Okay, do this. Bam. So again, as a manager, I think she's really got it. Or at least as the interfering friend. She's probably better at doing it than what Blade is. And I thought that was the whole purpose. So anyhow, there comes a point in the match. We're getting to just skip to the end here, where Blade gets hoisted up on Phoenix's shoulders. Genesis tries to intervene yet again. She hops up on the ring apron. Phoenix uses her opponent's feet to kick Genesis off. Then she steps forward, gives her a fall-away slam or a Samoan drop. Take your pick. And 1, 2, 3. After the match, Genesis gets into the ring to help Blade. Well, not really help so much as attack Phoenix and get Blade to help her stomp her down. So they proceed to do that. And then out of nowhere, lo and behold, Keita Rush comes, I guess, for her annual visit to WoW. I don't know. Gets into the ring and fires a drop kick off on Blade, who did not flee with Genesis. After that, Keita Rush gets on the microphone and she cuts the generic babyface promo. Pretty much the same thing she already knew and already heard. And I came here to be a great wrestler, but the only way you can advance is if you play dirty or cheat or same thing that everybody else says. Worded differently, but it's the same thing. She gives that promo, and then she gives her catchphrase, get the field or rush. So I'll be waiting for that, I guess, in the next 6 months or so. That was the only other thing that I put down here after the promo at the end is that will she be back? She's somewhat infrequent here. So I was like, I don't know if I should be rooting for that or not. The next segment is the Enlightened recap. This recap is showing how they came to be and getting you caught up to speed on, I guess, the Enlightened and their mission? Question mark. I don't even know what I want to say about this angle, this storyline. I mean, even looking at the video, it didn't provide a halfway justified reason for the Enlightened existence. Like, she said something about being a barbarian when she got lightly smudged in the forehead with a book. So, I mean, it certainly is not one of those heel wrestling angles where you could at least kind of see the heel's point of view. Like, I can't see any of that. It didn't come off as even just justified in her head. It just comes off like, this is just something I wanted to do, and this is the most paper-thin excuse that I have, and that's what we're going with. Because this is a storyline with a paper-thin excuse for this group existing. And every week that goes by is devalue the group. All right. So this is presented also as Garrett as a cause for them coming into being, along with the loss of the title for Garrett. So it kind of worked on both ends. The next segment is the wild spot. I've said what I've said about it. I guess summarize that it looks very well. I mean, it's a very nice produced, well done, however you want to phrase it, spot. It looks great. I will not take that away from it. It just doesn't have a clear message. In my opinion, there's like two things that need to be done. Well, maybe three. One, that spot needs to be cut in two. Because have it be either a promotional spot for WoW, praising the women's empowerment of WoW, or sell the merchandise. But don't try to slam them both together. Cut it and make one do one and the other do the other, and that's that. The other thing is, some of that, let's be honest, it should be recut. And this is not anything towards any persons in WoW, but look at the footage that they're using. They're using outdated. It starts off with outdated footage of Candy Crush, and then it goes to Keita Rush, who you barely see. If you're going to start at that point with updated stars, do the ones that are there. Show the champion. Show the ones that are on TV more often than not. I mean, if you're going to use Candy Crush, at least use Candy Crush in her top tier outfit or with top tier. And I'm not saying that any of that stuff is bad. I'm just, if you're going to have it, it probably just needs updating. That's not a horrible thing. I know that it can't be done now, because I'm pretty sure all of those things in the can. Or unless they're still editing them, current. And if they are editing them current, then they should go ahead and update it. If not, then, we get what we get. But that would be the best thing I would say. That particular portion of the video should be redone to reflect who's there current. Those are the biggest opening shots that you have. I know that there are current names within the course of the entirety of the video, but those are like the longest shots that you got. If you're going to have those shots, and they are dramatic shots, I don't want to discount that. So I know that that's part of the reason that is utilized. But if there are some that exist with some of the other talent that are there and on the screen a little bit more frequently, I'll probably just lean into that. I ain't saying get rid of Akita Rush in the footage. I ain't saying get rid of Candy Crush in the footage. Just shuffle it around a bit. That's all. And this is just me. If it's going to push the women as stars, you probably need to just lose the David McClain clip there too. It's not necessary. And I know the justification is going to be, well, who else is going to say welcome to WoW? But seriously, it's not necessary. Let the female stars be the focal point. And if you want that message put across, have Katie Marie say it and record it. Simple. Next segment is the promo for next week, which is Ashley Blaze and Tara Strike and Best for Business. So I can only assume that the investigation that was announced at the beginning of this, the people that put the show together already knew the result of, looking through the future window and how that went, so that they got the match that they asked for. So here we are. The match exists. And you didn't even have to wait the next week to find out whether you're going to get it or not, even though that was the allure at the beginning. The next segment is the main event, the Classmaster with the entirety of the Enlightened taking on Santana Garrett. And the first thing I wrote was, why didn't McClain kick the Enlightened out? I mean, surely they had bad intentions, in much the same way that the Alliance might have had in whatever match that was so many weeks ago. I can't remember the match. But we all remember that he kicked them out because it's just not fair that Reina Del Rey. That's right. Garrett versus Del Rey. It's not fair that she have to fight this fight alone with such odds against her. How unfair is that? I got an idea. And he kicks him out. And then here come the Enlightened. And they've been there ever since. Zayn recaps the loss of the Enlightened. Says they suffered a rare loss. Like, how is it rare? What is this, match 3? That's like, what's rare about that? It's not like they had 50 different matches and lost 2 times. They had 3 matches and lost once. I mean, sure, whatever. If it's got to be rare, then it's rare. I mean, that just is a loss of the record, probably of many to come. McClain says that they have this is just their jibber jabber, before and during the match. And said they have great pro wrestling managers in WoW. He's citing Samantha Smart and Ariana Gambino, Alana Starr. I like now, I loves me some Lana Starr as a manager. She has amazed me beyond what I thought was possible. Smart and Gambino have suffered from different things. I mean, Gambino at this point didn't really feel like she's done anything to stand out from what the previous Gambino did. She just pretty much slotted herself back into loser position. And Smart, again, She is put on the pedestal in this company. That much is clear. But not the most impassioned promo in the world. I will go with that. And really, I don't know if she's had a lot to sink her teeth into as far as a reason for doing it. Like that is much like Best for Business. Now, this is moderately, but I mean, by the thinnest of margins, this is moderately better. At least she can say I got hit in the head. And she could twist that maybe into, oh my God, if she was somebody that never had any physical violence, I guess, in her life. But we haven't established that, and that's just me saying it. If they turn around and do it now, you're welcome. So anyhow, she just doesn't present that quite yet. I don't know if Samantha Smart could be a manager without being Samantha Smart, if that makes sense. Like, I think that she's good at the character. And truth be told, and to be fair, that's all she has to be good at. Even though still promos like a little bit of emotion. But I would suggest that if you were to take Lana Starr and she just was the fabulous Lana Kinnear and she was out there with Marina Tucker, I think the act would still work. I don't think that she, would lose anything other, than the name. I feel like Smart might lose something if there's no story. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just how it comes off to me. It comes off like when she's doing a promo, it's scripted. Lana feels more organic or more close to the bone of who she is. Same way I feel about like VaRoom. VaRoom doesn't come off like she's a scripted person. Comes off like that's who she is and that's how she talks. Anyhow, so they are, nothing against the managers there. I just, think they got a little ways to grow. The other thing, getting past that, I wrote down, why would Santana agree to this? Like, how many more different ways do you have to show that I'm willing to walk into the land just blind as a bat to whatever dangers exist around me? I know that's just the way WoW does. I don't know why they have this thing that if there's a faction and one person's wrestling, we all get to stand around out here. I don't know why that became a thing there. I mean, but seriously, are they incapable of cheating that badly that you need 5 people to do it? I mean, there is a certain timing and art to the managers distracting the ref and all that stuff like that. You have to have the entire group in order to get something done. But anyhow, I was like, but getting back to Garrett, like, it feels like she walks into this almost regularly. And at some point, you would think like, hey, maybe you need to ask for some, security, or, hey, McLean, can you keep them back, or something. You would think the character might think of that, maybe. But in their universe, she hasn't. So, we'll just accept it for what it is. So she comes out and justifiably does not walk around the ring in the direction by which the Enlightened are sitting in the corner. She turns around and goes the other way. Which is, again, character-wise, smart. And you would figure that somebody concerned for their well-being would do that. She gets in, and I guess the Enlightened are listening to the rules because none of them are pushing past the referee. They all just like, oh yeah, he's not doing anything that really stopped them. He's just like a force field, holding all of them back. So this is coming out with Garrett agreeing to deal with this entire situation again. She wrestled smart because that's the only plus that I got out of that. She wrestled smart because of it. She went for pins early and often, which made me feel like, okay, well, at least within the course of Santana Garrett, the persona, the on-screen persona, within the course of her coming out to the ring, she realized what she had to do. Can't hang around here. Gotta win. So that was good. That was good. She attempted to fight the group, which, again, thumbs up to her for that. She paid for it, but thumbs up that she attempted. That's, I guess, where the praise would stop. I wish I had more of that Santana Garrett. Like it's almost the tale of two Santanas in this match. Like here, it felt like she knew what she had to do, and she was proactive. Again, yes, she paid for it. She got it. She caught Nova Sky, and I can't remember what I think Mind with the clotheslines when they tried to attack her. She got booted in the face by the Classmaster following it. But it's one of those things that, well, you can appreciate the effort, right? Because there is something inherently respectful or respected about somebody that's willing to fight the fight. So she goes down, and then the Classmaster takes control. I noticed that they don't really refer to as the 6'2" Classmaster anymore. I'm going to take credit for that. You're welcome. Classmaster is still a stupid name, but, we're stuck with it. She hits another magnificent leg drop, but I would really suggest that if it's going to be her finish, then she don't use it during the match. This is the second time that she has used that as finish. And that's another thing. She hadn't really stuck with a finish. She's done a bunch of different things, but there's not one that she's just, this is the finish and she's had this here on out. But she's got this. Maybe she'll stick with it. And if she does, if the leg drop is going to be the finish that she is going to use, then there's no reason for her to be using it during the match. Save it. McLean tries to portray the Enlightened as just doing mind games because they don't really interfere. I'm like, oh, okay. Sure they don't. The reader book crossface is ridiculous. This is another portion of the match where Classmaster neutralizes Santana Garrett and gets her down, and she gets her in her version of a crossface where she holds her hands, palms up together, simulating a book, which is the reason I mean, she didn't formally call it that, but I'm just saying that that's the only way I can describe it, the read a book crossface. And it's ridiculous on the basis of it legitimately looks like if Santana Garrett just crawled backwards so you can get out of it. I mean, that's about it. If she turned her head to the left a little bit and crawl backwards, like they could just slip out of this thing. It's an absurd move. I know they have to do these things to portray the character, but no, it's ridiculous. So during the match, as it continues on, McClain starts talking about he has his suspicions about what, I don't know. He brought it up after talking about the Enlightened and that hand signal that they do that Samantha Smart explained, or I guess on their own podcast, but hadn't been brought up. So I don't know what he has his suspicions about here and why. And what is there to be suspicious about? This should just be a case of, that woman up there that we allowed to get back into this ring after being clearly concussed might not need to be in the ring right now. But, that would be reality rearing its ugly head. So, we get the comeback. And we know the Santana Garrett comeback, which will include the Rise and Shine, which is a very athletic move. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I don't know if it's getting the return that it should. Like, I expected every match. And this goes back to the whole thing I said, probably multiple episodes. Like, I get it for a while. I get it that it's weekly television with nothing to drive for. There's no pay-per-view. There's no premium live event. There's no live event. There's no streaming. Whatever it is that a wrestling promotion might typically go towards as a big match, why don't have that? Why has television week to week? And every week they're trying to make that week a special week, which is next to impossible. So they're fighting an uphill battle just in that. Which gets me to Santana Garrett and the Rise and Shine. The Rise and Shine for Santana Garrett is much like, not to the same effect, but it's the Jerry Lawler strap pull down, it's the Hulk Hogan Hulk up, it's the Warrior shaking the ropes, it's Steve Austin flipping somebody off. You get where I'm going. It's the thing that person does to mount the comeback, or they're somewhat of their special deal, right? Just the signature. But those people that I named didn't have to do that every single match. Those were for the big match. There was no need for Jerry Lawler to pull the strap down for Wayne Travis or whoever he was fighting in the week-to-week television. That had to be reserved for the Terry Funks of the world, or the Dutch Mantels, or whoever, whatever threat happened to be in town that particular day. King Kong Bundy, who knows? That was when it had to happen, because that was the threat that he had to overcome. Same thing with Hogan. Now, whether we not talk about him as a human being, and talk about his persona on TV. On television, he didn't need to Hulk up every week. Matter of fact, him being on TV was rare to begin with. But if it was just some local jobber, they're like, no. You say that for the guy that put you in jeopardy. And on and on and on. Garrett does not have the luxury of having the big match to uncork the Rise and Shine. Is essentially what I'm getting at with that. She can't let it be special because there's no special place for her to utilize it. So it becomes this. It becomes the move that she does every match on television that you wait for it to happen. And yes, it is very athletic. And it looks great 9 times out of 10 when she does it. And all the time that she's done it, I've only seen her stumble once. That's incredible. I mean, we talking over years now. Only one time. But, again, I think maybe she gets a different vibe in the arena or where she's at, and I don't know. But it just feels like a diminishing return. Like, you can only pop for it so many times. Following the rise and shine. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to go backwards a little bit. The rise and shine is what sets up her getting the comeback, laying the Classmaster out, then spreading her on the, positioning to fall in such a position that she could go and do her handstand moonsault. Now, this is why I say you got to tailor to Santana's. Whereas the first half of the match was, proactive and smart about trying to get this win and get it over with and get out of there. This one decided to do the one thing that has cost her probably more than any other move that she's ever produced. I'm going to go and run and do my handstand directly in front of this group of people that already are screwing with me so they can yank my wrist out from underneath me like it's been done a couple of times already, and that can cause me to lose. And that's what happened. It became the regular act of ridiculousness that Santana Garrett would do for some reason. Despite having the ring surrounded, she decided to go for this. And that usually gets foiled in such a scenario, as it did. Then Pandemonium slides the Classmaster their magical book and knocks Garrett out again. Classmaster then pins Garrett with a big leg drop, which again, wish that she hadn't done earlier in the match, but oh well. The Enlightened stand triumphant over Santana Garrett. And she rolls out of the ring, dazed and confused, tilting her head like a lost puppy. Unsure where she's going, what she's doing, who these people are. Is that my master? I don't know. And she leaves dumbfounded again. McLean repeats at some point that he has his suspicions about the scenario and with the Enlightened, and he'll check into that. Like, all right, thumbs up. Yay, I guess. I don't know if it's anything that I should be excited about. Again, I don't know what is so suspicious about them. It seemed pretty cut and dry. This group kidnapped this person and then did some nonsense and left her lingering in in the laundry room. I mean, for all I know, they could have just made her chug a bunch of vodka until she got drunk and blacked out. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be something else more entertaining than that. I put down, how is Garrett so unsuccessful against them? I only ask that because, by comparison, you would think that Diesel, Destiny Diesel that is, had the Enlightened's number like a week ago. No fear, no confusion. Saved the day for a friend, ran him off with a trash can. The person out of nowhere to score the first win. She's got a pretty fair average against the Enlightened at this point in those encounters. Why is Santana Garrett so unsuccessful with them? Now, she, in theory, should be that top babyface. Didn't come off that way, but she should. And again, where are this woman's friends? I would not ask that question, generally speaking, as far as wrestling is concerned, because look, you always got the beating that takes place when nobody comes out to help, and you're like, where are they? But in this case, the reason I ask is because on multiple occasions, they have shown people being saved from minor stuff. Not that getting your ribs kicked in is minor, but you get what I'm saying. It's one other person, maybe. Just this episode, you had Keita Rush. Now just think about this for a second. She came out and helped, not from having a match. She just showed up out of nowhere and helped Xena Phoenix from getting kicked, beat down and getting the guts kicked in, right? Announces herself as the Bully Buster and, yada, yada, yada. Now, if there ever was a time for the Bully Buster to show her stuff, you would think it'd be right now. With a 5-on-1 scenario, nowhere to be found. What? And just pop in and then that's it. It's the same thing as Dave McClain. Like, I have full power to kick this entire group out mere minutes before the next one comes. And like, oh, well, I just used my power card. Can't do nothing else now. Why? It was 20 minutes ago. You can't come back and help. The logic in that place is so strange sometimes. I really, really question it. And I know that, they have their WoW universe, and in that universe, these things make perfect sense. In the WoW universe, things like that. Things like somebody who's a bully buster defends the weak, then come out and defend the weak. Things like an authority figure who wants fair play and a fair fight, except when there wasn't one. Things like a wrestler who works their entire career in one promotion just for an opportunity at a title shot, to disregard that title shot entirely because coffee was more delicious. Things like that. Anyhow, what is next for WoW? Now again, as I say, just for clarity's sake, by the time you're hearing this, it's very likely this episode is aired, but I haven't seen it yet, so let me see what I'm going to be dealing with. The next episode to be released by WoW is Season 4, Episode 30, 430, Frenemies. It reads as follows. Coach Campanelli claims to have the answer to top tier's problems, but her solution, they have solution in quotation marks, isn't what anyone expected. The Enlightened step into their biggest test yet, a shot at the Wild Trios Championship. Under the command of the IQ superior Samantha Smart, Dr. Pandemonium, Nova Sky, and Miranda the Mindful are set into battle against the champions, Monsters in Metal, Chainsaw, Daisy Lane, and Fury. Samantha Smart's quest to gild her empire in gold could end in enlightenment or annihilation. In the aftermath of Coach Campanelli's cutthroat, weakest link strategy, Gloria Glitter faces the Albanian grappler, Xena Phoenix, in a tense singles clash. With the pressure mounting, the question isn't just who wins, but whether Coach really does know best or has gone too far. And in the main event, Tensions finally boil over as former friends and partners collide with betrayal, bad blood, and new alliances in play. It's best for business. Kara Kai and Sandy Shore versus Ashley Blaze and Tara Strike. All right. Well, the first thing I'm going to assume is that Coach Campanella is going to make them wrestle singles matches, and that those singles matches might have some play into whether they remain in the group or not, I guess. I mean, they didn't really make this a big question there. That they started off with the way they phrased it, or the position is, it's almost like they want you to tune in to find out what it is. But then later on in this same thing is the weakest link strategy is like they just told me what it was. Maybe it's something different, you know. Maybe I'm reading too far into that. And so you got a trios match. This seems like it's going to be a 3-match show. Got a trios match for the championship. I cannot imagine that Monsters in Metal would turn around and lose the titles immediately. Which then makes me think that, okay, well then, unless the Enlightened are going to do something to get themselves disqualified or counted out or something like that, somebody's eating the fall and the Enlightened are going to lose again. Like, neither way would either one of these scenarios be good. Monsters in Metal should not be losing. What is this, their first defense? I don't remember them defending. No, this will be the second. They defended against Top Chair. So I wouldn't imagine that their first defense outside of Top Tier, they would just turn around and lose the belts. But at the same time, like, should the Enlightened be losing? They shouldn't have lost the last time. Are they going to turn around and lose here too? And this weakest link strategy, didn't they do this already? I could have swore that we've had this same thing play out already, where I'm not happy with the team and I'm going to make y'all wrestle these singles matches. Okay, I'm almost positive this exact same thing happened with the exact same people. All right, well, whatever. I expect the match to be good. Glitter's a vet. Phoenix is good. I'm sure she followed her. She'll be fine. And then best for business, Kai and Shore versus Blaze and Strike. I would assume that Kai and Shore would be changing their names, not just sticking with that. But again, I like, you know, what is this former friends and partners collide? I was like, Sandy Shore and Ashley Blaze have zero to do with this other than they've been drafted into it. And I can't even say drafted into it. Ashley Blaze worked her way into this scenario. She wasn't asked, she just did it. And I can see how that would be, you know, that would come off as somewhat overbearing. And Sandy Shore was just hanging around. And she, for whatever reason, just adopted Kara Kai's issues. I'm not sure why, but she did. I mean, what did any of them do to Sandy Shore for her to be upset with anybody? She has no motivation to this. She's just Kara Kai's clone in this situation. These are some weak ass stories, man. I'd already suggested probably at the beginning when I started doing this podcast some years ago that whoever was in charge needed to take a writing class. But since that's not going to happen, we just stuck with this. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, I'll be sent through another one because as long as it's there at the job, I'll be seeing them. So, that being the case, I appreciate your time as always. If you are on greater podcast platforms everywhere where we are featured and available, a rating would be nice. If you're on YouTube, do the YouTube things like, share, and subscribe. You don't know where to find those things beyond that, you can always go to WPNWrestling.com. WPNWrestling.com is the centerpiece and the hub and nexus of all our stuff. Videos going back to 2013. A little podcast widget down there that shows all the podcasts. And the videos do feature faces and names that you know from across the board. People that are going to AEW. I guess Ring of Honor also will be falling into that. NXT. WWE. Yes, even WoW. And TNA. All of those places. So you never know whose face might pop in there if you're looking at it straight. And that being said, folks, thank you again for your time and your ears. And as always, this is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long, and we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.